And yet it has all these entrancing ravishments, so that the world seeks all of these mortal things and devotes its time and its effort, its money. Its complete life is built upon mortal achievements. And this is the content of the golden goblet, forcing us into a state of life which is never real, but always seeming to be. And we live in this unreality, completely entranced by the woman in scarlet and purple, not knowing that she does not exist. We worship a shadow, and we live out of a shadow, seeking more shadows, to accumulate them, to store them in bonds, to build a life of glorious shadows. And behind the shadows, I am, awaiting recognition, ever present, saying, "Look unto me. I am your immortal self, your spiritual body, your perfect divine mind, your eternal life." Are you going to be seduced by shadows, by mortal matter? We are taken now to Jesus. The kingdoms of the world were offered to him. Mortal matter. Even as you and I are being tempted every moment to believe that we live as mortal matter in a mortal universe. And we are now to respond as he did. No, I do not live in a mortal world. God created none. Right here, present, where the mortal world appears, is the perfect, invisible kingdom of my Father, and I am developing that spiritual consciousness which can live and discern and realize that invisible kingdom, that invisible body, that invisible self. I will not be tempted by the kingdoms of the world, for there are none. The harlot on the horse, on the beast, loses its appeal to those who come into the consciousness that God is truly all, truly present, truly now. I am, and beside me there is no other. You are looking at the lie about me called this world, but my kingdom is right there for those who are enlightened, for those who are not clinging to the best of this world, but have managed to be liberated from the blandishments of a temporary life, a temporary success, a temporary possession, a temporary body, and who insist on living in their eternal self here now while in the flesh. The way is always, God is right here. Acknowledging the presence of God is always the way, and it always works. In the acceptance of God's presence where you stand, the power of God manifests, revealing the false lures of matter and mortality, and we are free, liberated from our own self-ambitions, our own self-will, our own self-deception, our own fear, our own aches and pains, We are liberated from all false sense of love into the divine. Upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Mortality and matter, the harlot and the beast. I'd like to try and experiment as we go through the balance of this chapter. Try to not give your complete attention to what I'm saying. By that I mean, try to break your consciousness of being in a form while you're here. Be aware of the fact that there's more of you than just a form and a mind sitting here. Get back and break the circuit of the body consciousness. Now let's see how we'd go about that. There's an interesting sensation that can happen when you have broken that circuit of the senses. The world seems to be flowing by. You're not just standing still anymore. There's a movement within as if the whole world is slowly going by. Usually that's a sign to you that you have broken the circuit of the senses and you're in a different inner experience. You're being released to the infinite. Now there's a very important step I'd like you to take at this moment. Something that has never been taught. When you get into your car to go home, for example, you're going to possibly say, I am spirit. Now that's not enough. And so the other step is something like this. Now you know that when your automobile opens that garage automatically, it's because there's something inside the garage that is responding to something on your car. Something on your car is sending out a signal. Something in the garage is receiving the signal. So there's a positive sending and a negative receiving, so that positive and negative become one. The sender and the receiver become one. And that opens the door. If the gadget on your car wasn't sending, it wouldn't matter how well the gadget in the garage could receive, it had nothing to receive. And if the gadget in the car were not working, it wouldn't matter how well your car was sending this signal, because there'd be no one to receive it. So you see, there must be both, the sender and the receiver. And that's the secret of living in the Spirit. God the Infinite is your universal being. You must know it. You must be conscious that I am the infinite Spirit. You must know it. The infinite Spirit is everywhere, and it is I. But that's not enough. That's the sender, that's the transmitter. It is sending over all this earth its truth, its qualities, its allness are being transmitted. Where's the receiver? You are also the receiver. I am the infinite I am, and I am the individual I am. Right here is the individual I am, and the infinite I am, which is everywhere, is right here where I am. You've got it all there. Spirit is everywhere, and Spirit is here. Then you've got the receiver and the sender. And the sender is greater than the receiver. The Father is greater than the Son. But I, the receiver, the Son, am one with I, the Father. So that the infinite is pouring its fullness right here where I am, receiving it simply by accepting this truth in my consciousness. I and the Father are one. The infinite and the individual are one. Now, here. I can relax in that, for in that infinite oneness is my peace. There's nothing more for me to do but rest in that one realized. That infinite one, individualizing right here whereon I stand, is the I am that I am. There is no separation. There is no spirit and a material me. I am the infinite spirit, individualized here as spirit. Though the world does not know this, though the world does not see this, though the five senses cannot discern this, I am that infinite spirit here, now. And all of the infinite is gracing my presence right here. Because there is no second, there is no other, there is no divided consciousness. The circuit is completed. The sender and the receiver are one, and I am both. God is all. God is the sender, God is the receiver. God is the Father, God is the Son. God is the positive, God is the negative. What difference, what words you use? The allness of God I am accepting as everywhere and here. Everywhere and here. If you leave out here, you've lost it. If you leave out everywhere, you've lost it. Everywhere and here. God is. And there is no other. Now with that consciousness, you can go anywhere. You can go in planes that fly upside down. You can get lost in the wilderness. You can be in complete dire poverty. It won't make any difference. That I will materialize as every need fulfilled. For when that I is acknowledged as the only presence, the infinite and the individual, without opposite, that I will manifest its presence as the allness of the Father made flesh. And there isn't anyone who cannot do this if they have a mind to, if they are taught it properly, and if they will dwell with it, rest in it, practice living in the infinite and the individual I, which is spirit, everywhere. So that having acknowledged infinite spirit, I cannot now look out and see forms and be impressed by them as powers, as realities. I acknowledge only the infinite spirit. I am not unfaithful to the infinite spirit. I am not deceived by formations of matter. I am not letting my false sense of consciousness deceive me into believing that the infinite spirit is not all that is here. And there is a turning within which breaks the circuit of the senses. And I discover I never had to get out of the body. I never could get out of the body. I never could overcome the body. I have always been the Spirit. I can never overcome that which is not here. Only the Spirit is here. I can never step out of the body, for the Spirit alone is here. Now I am seeing how false consciousness converts its sensation into an appearance called form. I am not in that sensation, in that appearance. I recognize it for what it is. An appearance made by the sensation of a false consciousness. But I am not in it. I am the Spirit. And the infinite Spirit is feeding itself where I stand, for it is I. All that the Father is doing everywhere, the Father is doing right here where I stand as the invisible Spirit. Wherever I walk in spiritual consciousness, I am under the government of that Spirit, and need fear not what mortal man can do, or mortal powers, or kings of the earth. For I am not accepting the false beliefs which are the abominations. I am in my identity. And in my identity, I can listen to these chapters and watch them and see them for what they are, deceivers of the world, leading men into a false body, destined to nothingness. Now we see these are the temptations that we have all succumbed to, and as we learn not to succumb, we are freed. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. The harlot was drunk with the blood of saints, meaning that even the saints had been tempted. Even the martyrs of Jesus had been tempted. Why, even Jesus had been tempted to believe in the reality of matter for a moment. And I wondered with great admiration, meaning how amazing that every person walking on the earth could have been fooled. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast thou sawest was and is not. I'll repeat that. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go unto perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. You see, mortality and matter were, but they are not. They have never really existed except in the false consciousness. And so John is learning that the beast, or matter, was, but is not. And you must remember, he's seeing this in the wilderness, meaning in all of time. And in all of time he sees that there was a thing called matter, but at the end of time, matter is gone. It was only in time, only in space. But in reality it is not. It was in time and space, but in reality it is not. And that's the was and the is of matter, the beast. It never was, except in man's concepts. And John, in the high consciousness, can see the ultimate moment when that which never was is seen to be something that never was, and man is free of material belief, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. This is the emancipation from the belief in matter. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life. We who do not know identity are those whose names are not written in the book of life, because everyone is the Spirit. And those who have not recognized their spiritual identity shall wonder when they behold the beast that was, is, and yet not is. Here's the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. When Jesus was tempted by the devil, the belief in matter, the beast, he was brought to a mountain. And these are now become 7 mountains. In other words, there are 7 major temptations. They do not all occur simultaneously, because at one level you believe a certain way, at another you receive another temptation, and at other levels again more temptation. But always at different levels, different temptations. Those are the 7 mountains we all learn are not really there, but seem to be. The 7 initiations. And there are 7 kings, 5 have fallen. Now these 5 are those which we have overcome. One is, and the other is not yet come. Matter has not yet fallen, and the next temptation after matter has not yet come. When he cometh, he must continue a short space. Can't be avoided. We must go through the final initiation. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So the 7 major temptations are all born and all combine come out of the 8th, which is the belief in matter. And out of matter come, let us say, the 7 false beliefs. That I live in a material body. I live a material life. I have material organs. I live in space. I live in time. The life, the body, time, space, these are the beliefs that we accept. I was born. And from birth through to the grave, we are deceived by the 7 temptations of birth, life, body, possessions, time and space. All of it making a false existence, born of the one which is the combination of these 7, the belief in matter. And all destined to be temporary, because it is not of God, only a changing image in the world mind. The 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have not received their kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Now this 1 hour means that all of the material world, all of it, is but 1 hour in eternity. And we have accepted the 1 hour as reality instead of the eternity. We're told by that not to live in the 1 hour, but to stand outside of it in eternity, beholding, watching, not letting the temptations, the 10 kings, the 10 horns, the concentrated power of matter, fool us by their vast earthward hypnotism. All of the powers of the material earth and the material heavens concentrate as the 10 horns and the 10 kings to persuade us that we're still in bodies of clay. And these have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. The one mind, the one purpose of all of the powers of earth and heaven in matter are to deny that God is all. So vast is that hypnosis that we have accepted it. But these shall make war with the Lamb. The Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen and faithful. Now this is the voice of prophecy of John, lifted beyond mortality into the immortal self, witnessing that which is true, that which is real, that which is eternal, and he sees the Christ in you overcoming the belief in matter. The belief in matter, the belief in mortality makes war against the Lamb, but the Lamb shall overcome. Living in the inner self, still within, we are receiving that woman who stood upon the sun and the moon, who was clothed in the sun. We are receiving inner revelation. Chapter 12 is coming through this to displace the harlot. We are being prepared to receive the divine word within, which releases us from the hypnotism of the senses, which releases us from slavery to matter, from a bondage that only exists in our false sense of things, but not in reality. All this John foresees in his illumined state. And he too is going through just that release. Isn't there a place where John tells us about this, about the love of the world? 1 John somewhere. Let's take a look. The first epistle of John had something along this line. He tells us, you remember, whoever loves the world is not of God, for nothing in the world is of God. Whosoever loveth the world is not of God, for nothing in the world is of God. That's taking in a lot of territory. That's the very self-same John who has received this revelation, that the world does not exist except in the false consciousness which believes in the material, mortal appearances of the world. He is teaching us how to step out of the plain before it hits the mountainside, how to live in eternity on the earth, even while appearing in a mortal material body to human sense. by rising to the purified consciousness of spirit. And then the Lamb shall overcome the beast. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. He is telling us that the world, total world, is in bondage to that which is not. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Now it turns out that the powers which have power over us are false powers even to the beast. And there's a great secret in this. You might wince when you hear it. But we are learning to know evil so well that we can recognize it. And when we recognize it, know it for what it is, we will have no more of it. Maybe in our human sense of things we figure, well, that's a funny way to do things. But obviously that's the divine wisdom working. It says, before you can know the truth, you must know the lie. How will you recognize the truth if you can't recognize the lie? And so all of the evils we encounter, all of the mortal material nothingness that we experience, is to acquaint us with the lie so that we may seek, recognize, and cherish the truth. Some of us know the lie pretty well by now. So much so that we're willing to do anything to seek, find, and experience the truth, and this is the purpose. Remember, all of the evil exists only in false consciousness. It is never real. It is never permanent. It never touches identity. But by the contrast with it, you learn what is real and what is real power and what is true identity. And through this you can step out of the 1 hour, that fleeting moment of human existence, into the eternal for which you have been prepared to experience the life which is everlasting. Five of the temptations have fallen. One is now, and one is yet to come. The woman which thou sawest in that great city, the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. The woman is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now the word city is used because that means state of consciousness. And the woman is a state of consciousness which rules even the kings of the earth. The state of consciousness, we know, is mortal materialism. And that is the ruling force of the state of this earth, from which Christ consciousness releases us. Now, Christ never was a physical form or in one. Christ is always your name. Christ is always your being, your identity, Son of God. The individualization of the infinite where you stand. Christ is that consciousness which is unconfined to a physical form, unresponsive to the physical forms around us, ever uncluttered, unattached, unclinging, free, needing nothing, seeking nothing, wanting nothing, because being Christ is all there is. And so we climb up to that dome where we can rest in Christ awareness. What do I need? Needs are only expressed by a false consciousness. What do I want? Wants are only expressed by a false consciousness. I am. God is now, here. So you see, when you are willing to rise above wanting, needing, seeking, knocking, waiting, hoping, becoming, and accept, now I am the Christ, now I am the Spirit, then the woman who sits upon the beast has been defeated. You are dehypnotized. You are not fooled into being less than the perfect child, living on the wisdom, the divine food, the truth, the love, the perfect presence of God where you are. You are literally then divine consciousness, not formed into a body of clay. And you are free to receive from that divine infinite consciousness where you are, letting it flow, letting it grace you, letting it live itself, not being concerned about the outer effects of the form, not how things are going to work out there, knowing that the divine consciousness is present, functioning perfectly where you are. Watch, behold, wait, be patient, be still, be trusting, accept. Don't let yourself be poured back into a form. Live in your consciousness, and then you are within, living the inner life, no longer bound by the externals. And you are reversing the whole order of the world, because the inner is the kingdom of God within you. And it does flow out into expression. It does change the outer effects. It does externalize as the good things. But the minute you step in there with a mind and try to say, I want this or that, or do this or that, or let me use you this way or that, you're out of divine consciousness. You have broken the perfect continuity by even a single stray human thought. Take no thought, be still, let, and behold this divine consciousness flowing through and as you transforms your world into my kingdom. That is the glory of the Father within. Stay out of the form. Don't try to get out of the form. Recognize you're not in one. And watch that form perform the word of the Father through grace. Everything you do becomes radiant with invisible love. Everything you touch becomes animated by this divine spark that you let flow as your consciousness. Seek nothing. All that I have is thine. And in the not seeking, the not wanting, you are accepting I am. You are in the one. And the one becomes its own perfect manifestation wherever you are concerned. Now John foresaw that this is what you would do. The Lamb, the Christ realized in you as I am, would defeat every mental, mortal, material temptation, so that you would insist on the purity of spiritual living. And this is how we step out of the abominations, the false sense of life, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the opposites. And we now walk under divine law, because our consciousness is the divine consciousness governing us. There are not two consciousnesses. The false one, the shadow, is no more. As friend to friend, let me say this. Until you develop that desire in you to sit still frequently, to practice that you are not in a body of clay, that you are spirit, that divine consciousness is governing you, and then to feel the experience of it again and again and again until you are sure that this is the truth. Until you do this, you will continue to have your ups and your downs. When you do this, you will notice the difference, usually very quickly. We must come to a place where we are not caught in mortal forms. When someone knocks on your door, they don't find a mortal form behind that door opening it and saying hello. When the phone rings, they don't speak to a mortal person. You must not be caught in a mortal form. You must learn how to live in divine consciousness. And that mortal form that appears will live under the law of divine consciousness. You will find your name written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. Now, I know what I'm telling you is difficult. I can assure you I'm not a master of it. But I also know that as I work on it, it gives, it yields, it opens. And I know it can be done because I witness it not only in myself but in a few others who are able not to be caught in a mortal form. They're the ones who can walk on the plane and bless every occupant of that plane, every occupant of that automobile, every occupant of that business, every occupant of that room. They are not in mortal forms consciously. And that brings divine law where they are. Be that one. That is walking with God. Well, we have about 5 more weeks, I think, to graduation. And so, on your way home today, infinite spirit is everywhere, and infinite spirit is where you are. Let the two become one in your consciousness and watch how beautiful it is. See you soon. Thank you.